Hello, my name is Hardluck, and I want to talk to you about living history, or as I like to call it, reliving history. There are certain ways that you can relive history. One is as an interpreter, where you pick out a time period or a mythical person and pretend to be that person, but not stay totally in character. If a person asks you, why are you dressed in all those funny looking clothes, you can say, well, I am a long hunter. I am portraying a long hunter of the 1790 period, and this is how a person of that period would act, and this is how a person of that period would conduct their life. Another way to do it is to be a historical reenactor, and that is like Civil War reenactors do. They portray an actual event with actual people. They assume the personality of the actual person, say Robert E. Lee, and stay in character and reenact some historical event that Robert E. Lee was involved in. Another way to do it is to be a historical interpreter, as I said, and this is to assume the personality of a person of a particular period, but do not stay in character, answer questions about modern things and about how things are done. Living history is usually done at a historic site or historic place where there are people that are living there and acting as though people would have done in that period. And also it's similar to interpreting, because they would say, well, this is how fireplaces are started, this is how candles are made, this is how soap is made, and explain it in detail. Another facet of historical interpretation is when people ask you questions like, how do you start a fire? Do you use matches? And you answer them, no, there were no matches available in 1790. This is how I start a fire. And if you are a Native American interpreter, you may want to exhibit how a fire is started with a stick and a bow. And if you want to do it a different way, you can use a flint and steel. One of the good things about historical interpretation in this particular manner is that you can actually allow the person to try to do whatever it is you're doing, unless it's dangerous, of course. In some instances where there are historical interpretations going on at a historic site, there may be people there demonstrating how a tomahawk is thrown, and they may line people up and allow them to try throwing a tomahawk, but under close supervision. In some instances where you're firing a black powder muzzle loader, in some instances and cases, they actually instruct someone on how to fire one and allow them to do it. And further in further tapes that I'm going to do, I will address that particular subject one at a time. My email address is hardluck4, the number 4, hardluck4 at outlook.com. hardluck4 at outlook.com. Email any questions that you have, or email some suggestions as to some topics that you would like for me to cover. Now, I know in this day and time it's very easy to go on the internet. If you were born after, say, 1985, you probably grew up using the internet to look up things that you want to use. But in most historical cases, that's a very narrow view, and you have to look up particular subjects. If you go into historical references, books, there is many subjects covered in that book that you can look up on the index, or that you can pick a book on, say, Scottish tartans. And in that book about Scottish tartans, it will also have some Scottish history. It will have some background on tartans. It will have some examples of tartans. It may even say how that the cloth was dyed, or how it was made at the particular time, or what the measurements were. Whereas you wouldn't find that on the internet. It wouldn't go into that kind of detail. You would have to ask it specific questions along that line.